This will be my last question. Look, we're dealing with a budget of about $130 million and practices that, if I understand your position on the subject, at first you didn't know exactly what was going on. Then when you did learn the way money was being held under fake names, you ordered it stopped, and it wasn't stopped. So it's 130...
That's not, can I correct you for 1 second? Please, because there's been some confusion. There are two different issues in question. One was the practice of the Speaker of the City Council having money in a reserve fund, which sometimes gets referred to as holding codes. Monies which could get distributed throughout the course of the year by the Speaker or through council members to community-based organizations. Let me come back to that. Then there was the separate issue, another issue, of those holding codes or reserve funds being listed in the budget as fictitious organizations. The listing of the reserve funds in the budget as fictitious organization is a practice that dates back at least till 1999. I found out about that practice in the late fall, early winter of 2007, last year. As soon as I found out about that practice, I instructed my staff to turn that information over to the U.S. Attorney's Office and to the Department of Investigations because it is an unacceptable practice that deserved investigation. But again, I want to be clear, I found out about that in the late fall, early winter of 2007, and the moment we found out about it, we turned it over to investigators. The other practice of the Speaker having a reserve fund to be given out throughout the course of the year was a practice that, you know, I obviously knew about, was told about when I became Speaker. It's a practice we continued in the FY07 budget. It's a practice largely because of our ongoing budget reforms and because of the transparency efforts I referenced with putting council members' names on allocations, we took steps to end in 2008, which I later found out didn't happen.
None of which would seem to be a great recommendation to be mayor and to be in charge of a $60 billion budget.
Well, you know, my job right now, as I said before, in the next 6 weeks, is to pass the best budget we can. One, which prepares us to head into a recession. One, which makes sure alternative cuts and savings are found to put money back into important core services like education. One, which makes sure that the community organizations that get funded are community organizations that can do the work and are of high ethical standard. Now, I think as people look at elected officials and leaders and decide what they think of them and decide what they may or may not think they can do in the future, an important question is going to be, whatever those jobs or choices may be, an important question is going to be, when somebody found out about a problem, what did they do? Did they admit that problem? Did they turn it over to those who should know about it? Did they take steps to fix that problem? Well, the answer to that question, we don't know it yet. The budget isn't done. But for me, how people will judge me, not about the next job I may or may not want, but how I do this job, I don't believe will be defined by the problem we're in right now. It'll be defined by whether or not we come up with a solution that will prevent anything like this from happening again, and that is what I'm going to do.